Hi everyone, it's Lindy on here from Pink Whisper Designs. Today we're going to start by using the Strathmore Bristol Smooth Surface cardstock in a 100-pound weight. And then we're also going to use the dies, the Say What gift tag dies from Lawn Fawn. And we're going to use the solid one with the stitched border. And we're going to run that through our Spellbinders Platinum machine 3 times. We need 3 of these tags. And you can see there it makes this adorable little stitched edge all the way around. So the next thing I want to do is take the cardstock Cilantro in the 100-pound weight, also from Lawn Fawn, and we're going to run that through, but all I need is enough to make the grass at the bottom of the card. So I'm going to approximately cut about 1.5 inches down. I really just want that stitched edge to continue along the sides and the bottom of the tag. So I'm going to run that through, and I'm not worried about the height at this point. I just need enough to make that grassy bottom edge. And I'm going to run that through 3 times. So the next thing I want to do is cut that fence. So this is the spooky fence border, and I'm going to take some heavyweight black cardstock. This is just some scrap paper that I had. And I'm going to cut that fence. I want to make sure I have enough at the bottom to use to attach to my card. And you'll notice when this cuts, it doesn't cut the bottom edge of the fence, which is really nice because then I have that extra on the bottom to attach it to my card or my tag. So what I'm going to do is just snip away the excess of that black cardstock. That'll just leave me with the border itself. And now what I want to do is I want these 3 sections of fence on my tags, but I don't want to have to fuss with figuring out how wide it needs to be and all that. So I'm just going to go back and use that tag die to do the work for me. So I'm going to figure out approximately how high I want that fence border to be. And then I'm going to position that tag die right on top of that again, just like I did with the grass. And I'm going to run that through my machine. You will not see the stitched border edge with this when we're done, but again, it just does all the cutting and measuring for me and I don't have to do it myself. But if you prefer, you can just lay this on your tag and cut around it because again, that stitch border won't show. So you'll see once I run that through, now I've got it to the right height and measurement that I need to fit on the bottom of that tag. And I'm going to do that 2 more times so that I end up with 3 of these borders. I just love how all the Lawn Fawn pieces all work together. Everything coordinates together. It just makes it so much fun to work with these. So there you can see I have all 3 cut and ready to go. So now I'm going to take this set, the So Owlsome stamp set from Lawn Fawn, and I'm going to use 2 of those owls and the little branch. And also later we'll be using that saying there, thanks for being so awesome. This is the Pick of the Patch set, and I'm going to use all 3 of those pumpkins. I'm going to die cut those out. And I just think everything on that set is adorable. The little squirrels, the sayings, I mean there's a lot to it. Again, as I was saying before, you get so many little pieces that all work together. All the sayings mix and match with each other. So you'll just have a blast with these. So here I've got all my stamps laid out on my Misty stamp platform. And I'm going to use the VersaFine Onyx Black ink. And I'm just going to ink up all of those at once. You'll see here that I did ink up the little leaves and I cleaned those off and moved them up to the top because I want those to be green. They are solid, so I'm going to do those in green a little later. So I'm going to go ahead and stamp all of those, and I also want to stamp 2 more of the smaller pumpkin, so I went ahead and did that. So there'll be 3 of the smaller ones. So now I'm going to go ahead and stamp those 2 little leaves now. I'm just positioning them on the platform, and I'm going to use the Lawn Fawn ink in freshly cut grass, which is such a pretty green. It's kind of a lime green. And you'll see they're so tiny, but there is a die cut to match those. Now I'm going to go ahead and place all the dies on all of those stamped images. And I'm going to use a little bit of tape to hold those in place. I just got the purple tape, and I really do love it. And I'm going to use the purple tape. It's a little stronger than a washi tape, and it seems to be more reusable, I'm finding. So I'm positioning those down, and I'm going to run those through the die cut machine. And I'm going to also run it through again to get those other two little pumpkins. So you can see I have everything die cut here. I'm going to start by using my Tombow markers in 055, 946, and 905. So a yellow, a mustard, and an orangey color. And then I have my blender pen, the N00. So I'm going to go ahead and start by using that lightest color, yellow. And I'm just going to cover the whole thing with the yellow color. Then I'm going to come in with the next darker color and just bring that down just a little bit, the top and on the bottom. And I'm trying to use kind of a one stroke, sort of towards the top and towards the bottom, just pulling that ink color into the stamped image. And now I'm using the darkest color and just doing a little bit. Looks like candy corn almost. Now I'm going to take my blender pen and I'm going to just pull those colors down. And you can see that I'm just kind of pulling the colors into the center and just kind of blending them out. I just want that center area to be the lightest. I'm just going to continue doing that with the blender until I get the color that I want there. If you find that it's too dark, just clean off the blender. Just go to a piece of scrap paper and clean it off. And basically you'll color it till you don't see any color, and then you know it's clean to go to your next image. So I'm going to do the exact same thing here, and I'll just show you one more time. Just using that lightest color to fill in the entire pumpkin, and I'm not fussy about that because I know I'm going to blend it later. Coming in with that medium tone, and then coming in with the darker, more orangey tone there. And then again, taking my blender pen and just kind of lift and pull until I get those colors down into the center there. From the bottom up and then from the top down. And again, if you feel like it's gotten too dark, go ahead and clean off that blender pen. And you can see there you get a nice highlight in the center. So I just went ahead and finished coloring the rest of those pumpkins all the exact same way. Now if you don't want your pumpkins the same color, just mix up your tones of oranges and yellows, and there you can see me cleaning off the blender, and once it goes clear, you know it's clean. Now I'm going to go ahead and color that little branch, so I'm going to use the Tombow markers, and I'm using 977 and 912. So I'm going to start with that lighter 912 color and just color the whole thing in. Then I'm going to take that darker color, just kind of go along the bottom of the branch, and a little bit on the ends there. And then I'm going to take my blender and just kind of pull those two colors together. And again, you could just color these in, simply color them in. You don't have to do all this. So if it's easier and you're doing a lot of these, just simply color them. So there you can see I've got a little bit of shading on it, and that looks good. I'm cleaning off my blender pen again, and now I'm going to go ahead and do the two cute little owls. I just think these guys are so cute. And I'm going to use the 992 and 969. Again, a lighter and a darker shade of a beige and a brown. I'm going to go ahead and cover the whole thing in the beige. I wasn't really sure the colors of the owls. I did look up owls online to see what they look like, and I decided I wanted them to be in this brownish tone because it went well with the card that I was creating. So kind of use your imagination and your creativity to decide on your colors. I don't think everything has to be perfect. Just kind of blend those in, bring that darker color down, and moving that darker color up a little bit. I'm using kind of a bit of a circular motion here to kind of give the effect of the feathers. So more of a circular motion. And I'm just going to blend that in as best I can. And now I'm going to take 946, which is that yellowy color, and do a little bit on his little feet there. And a little bit of 905, which is that orangey color on his little beak. I'm just going to pull that color down a little bit, and I'm going to do the same thing on his feet. So they're a little lighter at the ends. And then now I want to do the tummy area there. So I'm going to go back to that lighter shade of beige that I used first. And I'm going to color the whole thing in. Then I'm going to come in with that 946 and just kind of do the little feathers on his tummy and a little bit around the tops of his eyes there. And just blend that out very simply. Nothing fussy here. And you can see he looks cute. I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing for this one here. So I'm starting with that lightest color. I'm going to go ahead and do the whole thing since it is all the same color. The base of it is all the same color. So I'm going to go ahead and do the whole thing this time. Then I'm going to go back in with that darker brown just like I did before, just so I can highlight a little bit of his forehead there, and I'm pulling that color in, kind of using a bit of a circular motion, just trying to blend it out. And again, leaving the little streaks and lines to give the effect of feathers. So you don't want to blend it so smoothly. I like the fact that it has a little bit of texture to it. I'm cleaning off my blender because it was getting a little too dark down there in that corner. Then I'm going to come back in with that kind of mustardy color. I'm going to again do the feathers and over his eyes there to give a little shadow there. And just blend that in. Smooth it out a little bit. Then I'm going to go ahead and do his beak and pull that color down towards the tip of his beak. And then do the same thing I did before on his little feet with a little bit of that mustardy yellow color and pull that in. The beak looked a little light to me. You can see I got a little bit off to the right there, so I'm using that blender pen to pick up some of the color and removing it. You can do that. Make sure your pen is clean, and then go to the area that bled out a little bit and use the blender to pick up the color and take it off the paper onto a piece of scrap paper. So here you can see I have my 3 tags, and I'm just trying to line them up as straight as I can. And I'm going to use some purple tape, masking tape, just to tape those down. I want them not to move around, and I'm going to apply my ink colors for the background. I'm going to start with mustard seed. I'm using my foam applicator. These are from Tim Holtz. This is the Distress Oxide ink, which blends so beautifully. And I'm just going to start with that mustard seed down at the bottom here. And the next color I want to take is the carved pumpkin. I'm trying to decide where to come in with that color. I'm going to come in kind of from the side and then sort of blend them out. I didn't want to lose that yellow color, so I'm just trying to kind of get that in there. I'll go back later and blend some more, but right now I just want to get that color down. And now I'm going to use picked raspberry, which I know sounds kind of strange, but it really made this sky really pop. So I'm just going to continue to blend that picked raspberry color in there a little bit. Again, I'm just laying down color. I'm not being real fussy at this point. And then I'm going to take the Dusty Concord and I'm going to apply that towards the top, kind of blending it into the pink there. You can see I get this really pretty combination of colors. So now what I want to do is just go back and blend a little bit more. So I'm going to take that mustard seed and just kind of blend everything out. I don't want to cover the colors I've already done, so it's with a very light hand that I'm doing that. So the next thing I want to do is take the Tim Holtz Distress Sprayer, and I'm just going to spritz some water down on here. And then you'll see I'll just take a paper towel and dab up that excess water. I'm just going to leave this beautiful textured background. So now I can go ahead and remove the tape, and you'll see that I have a little white border at the bottom, but that's not going to matter because it won't show. So now I want to get the little grassy border, and to make this simple, all I'm doing is laying that fence border right along the green paper and marking it with a pencil, and I'm going to cut right below the pencil line so I don't even have to worry about erasing that, and that's going to fit right on there perfectly. So I'm going to do that for all three of these little borders. Just mark it with the pencil and then follow that pencil line just below the pencil line, and it'll line up perfectly. I'm going to go ahead and do that last one the same way. And now you can see we'll have that really pretty stitched border edge all along the bottom, which will match up with the tag. So now what I want to do is take the forest moss, and I'm going to add just a little bit of color around the edges of that grass. I kind of wanted it to have a little bit more of a darker feel. Not nighttime, but maybe more like a sunset type of feel. So I'm adding a little bit all the way around the edges. Again, not being fussy, just adding a little depth there. And then I'm going to use the Lawn Fawn glue tube, and I'm going to add a little bit of glue to those and just position those in place. I'm going to do that for all three. So those are all set and ready to go. Now I want to take the tags, and I just kind of want to see how those are going to position on the tags there. And you can see that that white border is completely covered now. So that looks really good. The sky looks good. You could always go back and add more color at this point if you didn't like it. I forgot to color in the little stems, so I'm using 992, which is a lighter beige color, and I'm going to do those real quickly. And then I'm going to go ahead with a little bit darker color, N57, which is kind of has a greenish, beigey greenish tone to it. I'm just going to bring a little bit that at the base of the stems, and then I'm going to use my blender pen, and I'm just going to pull that up towards the top, just so it's a little darker at the stem. Okay, so now I want to take another look here at my tags. And I'm going to try to just figure out the layout here. I know that I want that little owl on the branch there. I'm going to get that in place. And then I'm going to have a pumpkin, a couple of pumpkins down at the bottom. I want some behind the fence and some in front. And I may pop up one or two of those. And then the other little owl down at the bottom there. So that looks pretty good to me. So I think I'm going to go ahead and start attaching everything together. So I'm going to go ahead and take my glue tube from Lawn Fawn, and I'm going to add a little bit of glue, and I'm going to make sure I put a little on either end of the fence there, just to make sure it doesn't pop up, because it is kind of delicate there. So I'm going to make sure I glue it down really well. Just position that at the bottom of the tag and make sure everything's attached. Then I'm going to go ahead and put some glue on the back of that first pumpkin. Then I'm going to take that little owl and I'm going to put a little photo mounting tape on the back of him and pop him up a little bit just for some dimension. He's so cute. I just love him. And then I'm going to take and put that first taller pumpkin behind the fence. And then just checking there to make sure I have it in the right place. And then adding some more glue to the fence. Again, making sure to get those two little ends there. I love this glue. It comes out really nice. It's very easy to use. You get a nice small dot. You don't get a lot of, and it doesn't seem to drip out. You sort of just get as much as you need. You can even get in these tiny little spaces. And now here I'm going to pop this one up again with a little bit of mounting tape. Those two look pretty good. So for this last one, I'm going to go ahead and glue that down into place again. I almost forgot to do the tops there, so make sure I do that. Get that positioned. Another little piece of mounting tape behind this pumpkin here. And then for the owl, I want to put the branch, I'm just going to put glue about halfway down the branch because I don't need the whole thing. Just trying to figure out where that should be, and then I'm going to cut off that excess. And then I'm going to also pop up this little owl here. And I want them going off the tag just a little bit, just to draw your eye out a little bit from the symmetry of the tags. So now the last little piece I have are these two little leaves, and they are so tiny they were hard to get a hold of, so I'm using some tweezers here and just trying to figure out where the best place is to put them. I kind of fuss around with this a little bit, but I decide on that. And it was worth the effort because it added a little bit of that lime green up towards the top to draw your eye up towards the top a little bit. So it was definitely worth the effort. So those look really cute. So now the next thing I want to do, and you can see up close there that the owl is popped up a little bit. You get some nice dimension here. And I love the sky. I'm really happy with that. So what I want to do is add a little bit of twine to the top there. I'm using the Lawn Fawn trimmings in the lime color. And I'm going to go ahead and cut 3 little pieces of that. And this twine has a nice texture to it. It's a little bit heavier than a baker's twine. So I'm going to go ahead and fold that in half, and I'm coming in from the back to the front. And you see I have a little loop there, and I'm going to bring those other 2 ends through the loop and pull and tighten that, and then I'm going to cut them on a little bit of an angle here. I'm going to go ahead and do that for all 3. Again, folding it in half, coming from the back towards the front, taking that loop, bringing those 2 ends through, and pulling on it to tighten it a little bit. If you don't feel like that is going to stay in place, you can always add a little dab of glue there on the back of the twine and just make sure that it doesn't move around. But I didn't think there'd be any problem because it is going on a card, so I think it'll be fine. So there I have the last one. And that adds again more of that lime green color up towards the top. So now we kind of have it complementing the top and the bottom. So that looks pretty good. So now I'm going to take the stitched wood grain backdrop and the paper bag cardstock in the 100-pound weight. I'm going to go ahead and die cut that wood grain background, which I love this. This is so pretty. I just recently got this and I've been using it quite a bit. It adds a lot of texture without adding a lot of color. And especially on these fall cards, I really think it adds a little extra something special. And it's kind of a stitched wood grain backdrop. So I wanted to add a little bit more to that. So I'm using the ground espresso. And I'm going to take my applicator tool and I'm just going to go around the edges of that and just add a little bit more dimension to it. Not being fussy here because a lot of it's going to get covered. And then I'm going over the middle just a little bit. So the next thing I want to do is make the card. So I'm going back to that cilantro cardstock. Again, because it's such a nice heavyweight cardstock, I'm actually going to use it for the card itself. And I'm going to go ahead and cut this using the We Are Memory Keeper cutting tool and scoreboard, which I really like. I just recently got this and it does cutting and scoring, and you've got the little bone folder down there at the bottom, so it's all kind of tucked away together. And the platform actually folds under itself. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this so that I have a standard 5.5 by 4.25 inch card. So I'm taking the 8.5 by 11, cutting it at 5.5. And then in order to score, you'll see that I take the little tab out there, flip it around, and that creates the flat edge to do my scoring. So you can see my paper fits right up along that edge, and I'm going to go to the 4.25 marking and I'm going to score that. And then this folds up and you can store it away at half the size, which I like since my craft room is so full now. I'm going to go ahead and take the Lawn Fawn bone folder, which is a Teflon bone folder, and it makes a beautiful crease on the edge. You don't get any of that rippling that sometimes you do with a regular bone folder. It really works well. I'm very pleased with this. It's got the two ends, one you can score with and the other end to press down your folds. So now, as I was placing this wood grain on there, I noticed I had a little bit of green showing. So I could cut that away, but I decided I kind of liked it. So I'm going to keep that, and I'm taking my score tape, the 1/4 inch score tape, and I'm going to apply that along the back of this wood grain panel. I'm just going to remove the backing of the tape, and I'm going to place that on my card. And again, you'll see that I am going to have a little tiny sliver of that green showing at the bottom. You can cut that away if you don't like it. I kind of liked it there, so I'm going to leave it. Now what I want to do is position my tags in place, so I'm going to line those up. I decided to use my T-ruler just to make sure that everything was going to be straight. Well, after you spend all this time on all the details, you want to make sure that everything is lined up. So if you're good at eyeballing, go ahead and do it that way. I just decided I would just double check things with the T-ruler, the T-square, and position those in place. So I'm taking my photo mounting tape, and I like to conserve my tape a little bit, so I'm just adding little tiny squares of it to the back. I find that I can use a little bit less this way. It goes a little bit further for me when I do it like this. And just make sure you place enough on there so that the tag stays secure and doesn't kind of get crushed if it's going through the mail. So I put tape on the back of all 3 of those, and I'm going to get those positioned down. So now I decided I wanted to have a little bit of a saying there. So I'm going to use the thanks for all you do, and from the double slider surprise, I'm going to use that little banner. We've got the die, and I'm going to just cut that out of some Bristol Smooth cardstock. I'm going to run that through 3 times actually, because I want to make it a little bit thicker, more like a little embellishment, like a chipboard embellishment. So I'm running it through three times, and I'm going to end up gluing those three together. So here I'm taking my Misty stamp platform, and I'm just using this to hold that little banner in place. Now there are different ways you can position your acrylic stamps. You could position it right on the Misty. I find it easier sometimes just to take a small block and just move them around a little bit until I get that positioning just right. It doesn't take long, just a few seconds here to get it where I want it to be. And then I'm just going to ink up that stamp and stamp it. And those magnets hold it in place. So I'm using the Freshly Cut Grass ink pad from Lawn Fawn. And I'm just going to go ahead and ink that up really well and stamp that. And I love this color ink too. Everything ties together. Everything they do coordinates and matches each other, and the cardstock and the inks and the twine, everything just, I love it. Everything works so well together. It's kind of like Garanimals when you were a kid. Everything mixes and matches. You don't have to worry about finding that exact match. So here you can see that I glued one of them down, and I'm going to glue the second one so that I have three all together. And it will give me a nice heavyweight embellishment here. I'm just placing the acrylic on there just to let that dry for a second here. Now I'm going to take the ground espresso again, and I'm just going to go around the edges of that a little bit just to soften it up a little bit. Give it a little more of a rusticy feel. And I want to make sure I kind of do the sides of that embellishment as well, just to tone down that white a little bit. Just going to go around the entire thing. And I love this banner. This is so pretty. I can see using this for a lot of different projects. Just adds a little something. Just got enough of a little wave in it to add some interest. So that's all set. I'm going to place a little bit of mounting tape on the back of that so that I can pop it up a little bit. Again, just kind of cutting my tape in half, making it go stretch a little further. And I'm going to go ahead and pop that on the card. I want to center it below those three tags. And again, I like that little bit of a green edge at the bottom there. Now I decided I need a little something, so I'm going to use my Nuvo drops, the crystal drops, and I'm using the apple green, which matches exactly to this paper. I wasn't sure that I was going to want them on the card, so I went ahead and I did the drops on a piece of plastic. It's from a plastic bag that I got something in. So I went ahead and I made all my little drops earlier, just because I wasn't sure. So I made them in all different sizes, and I'm just popping them off the plastic now onto the card just to see where I want them. I was afraid to commit right to the card, so I thought this was an easier way for me to do it, to see if I like them. And I do. I end up liking them, and I move them around a little bit, and now I'm going to go ahead and attach them. I'm using the Ranger multi-medium matte finish, and also I'm using my jewelry picker from Marvy to pick them up, and I'm going to use that matte medium to attach them to the card. And this little jewel picker is really nice because it's got a soft end on it, so when you pick up the Nuvo drops, you don't want to make a mark in them. Sometimes when you use something too sharp, you can make a little mark in them, so this works well. Now I'm going to take the Jelly Roll pen, and I'm just going to add a little highlight to each of those pumpkins. Just a little bit of stroke, a stroke and a couple of dashes, and a little bit to that fence. I mean, you can skip all of this if you want. I just think it adds a little bit something, a little highlight. It goes very quickly. Now what I want to do is go back over the owls. Oh, and I decided to add a little bit here to the branch as well. Now I'm taking the Jelly Roll pen in black, I'm just going to go over the eyes just to darken them up. They got a little bit lighter as I was inking everything, so I want to make those a little darker. And now you can see that looks pretty good. I've got some dimension and lots of color. I love that lime green with all the other colors here. Just really makes it pop. So that looked pretty good, but as I was sitting here looking at it, I decided I wanted to add a little bit of something to the beaks on each of these and make them a little bit shiny. So I'm taking the Nouveau Crystal Glaze, and I'm just going to add a little dot of glaze to each of their beaks. And this will dry. It's a little cloudy right now, but it will dry crystal clear. And it will just give a little bit more dimension to those owls. Hope you had fun today. Please be sure to hit the like and subscribe button below, and visit me again at pinkwhisperdesigns.com. Thanks again for watching, and I hope you have a great day. Bye-bye.